Hey guys, it's Adam from LUCIDPIXUL and welcome back. One of the funniest questions, funny haha questions that I get from listeners, from viewers, people who get in touch with me is it too late for me to start a career? Have I missed the boat? Has the ship sailed and I've been left stranded on this island to fester in the hot sun, to starve and dehydrate for all eternity? And the reason I'm saying this is funny is for two reasons. Number one, I'm an insensitive prick and I feel nothing for the hardship of others. Thought at least that much would be obvious so far. But the main reason why I find this funny is because in most cases, I'd say in a good 90% of the cases of people reaching out to me, that question is asked to me from somebody who is usually under the age of 25, but in most cases, under the age of 20. Now, I have a 20-year-old daughter, and at 20 years old, you are at best finishing college. You haven't gotten into university, if you're going to go to university at all. And in most cases, I'd say the gross majority of artists have not even started their career by the age of 20. They've probably been building towards it. They've been educating themselves in that direction, but they haven't started their career. So one must ask the question, where do they get off asking whether or not they've missed the boat when they never even got on it in the first place? No, I'll be honest with you. Of course, I don't laugh at people for asking that question. I'm just trying to be clever. But from the perspective of somebody who's more than double that age, because I'm 46 now, the perspective of somebody who's more than double that age, I realize now, thankfully, that there are many different emotional, psychological obstacles, hurdles I had to overcome to get to where I am psychologically, to get to where I am emotionally right now in my career. And it's very easy to take that journey for granted. I would argue that one of the main reasons why I produce these art talks in the first place is not because I'm the great wise old wizard and I'm sharing all of my wisdom with you. It's more so a way of, kind of sharing my experiences that I've been through in the past, but more so as kind of an audio catalog of my own past. Not only for your benefit, for mine too. Because I teach, because I'm a father, because I'm somebody who's just like you, a work in progress. So this reminds me to keep myself connected to my full self. It keeps me connected to what keeps me real. It keeps me authentic. It keeps me humble. It keeps me wise. I want you to be able to benefit from this too in as balanced and healthy a manner as possible without getting all guru-ish with you, because I'm not a big fan of those. So where am I going with this? Well, I wanted to share with you kind of some of the realizations that I have made later on in my life. And I'm sure that if you're somebody who's been through your own roller coaster of a life, and maybe if you're around my age or a little bit older, or a little bit younger, you might be able to attest to this too. You might be able to agree with what I'm saying here. But one of the things that I've realized over the years is there are some things that really matter. But just from what has actually mattered to me, what have I been through? What are the ups and downs that I've experienced in my life? And after 46 years, which is a substantial but not substantial amount of time, what has come to, what bullshit have I filtered out? What things have consumed a lot of my energy and have consumed a lot of my time and have caused me to worry a whole lot? For nothing. Or at least to very little benefit, and things that I eventually realized I had to purge from my psyche so that I could start having a more focused perspective of self. And when I listen, when I get messages, when I receive messages from 19-year-olds, from 20-year-olds, from 22-year-olds, more often than not, they tend to be the more the ones that generally express more feelings of loss, feeling lost, feeling confused, feeling hopeless. And it's very easy from somebody in my perspective who's in his mid-40s now to go, oh, he's just a kid. You know, he hasn't learned life's lessons yet. It's very easy to think that way. It's very easy to take anybody else who's younger than you and think, oh, that's stupid. Like the way my almost 13-year-old daughter can kind of roll her eyes at something that my 9-year-old son might get all worked up about and go, oh, just relax. It's not fucking important. You know, that kind of a thing. And the same thing can be applied to anybody at any age, in retrospect, looking back at the whining and complaining of other people. But that's the thing. This is one of the things that life teaches you. At every single point in your life, whether you are 3 or 6 or 9 or 12 or 15 or 20 or 25, 35, 45, 65, 75, everything that you're experiencing at that particular phase in your life is relative to your age. It's relative to your reality. It's relative to where your body is chemically and hormonally. And I don't just mean hormonally as in going through puberty, as the cringy ass movie Finding Red or Becoming Red, which I want to do a review on with Chloe so desperately because I have so much to say about that movie. But I'm not just talking about going through your period. I'm not just talking about going through hormonal changes. I'm talking about the hormonal changes that go on through your entire life. You will be going through hormonal changes when you're 6. You're going to be going through hormonal changes when you're 12 and 15. And you're going to be going through hormonal changes when you're 30 and 40. In fact, I honestly feel that something chemically changed inside of me once I started to reach the end of 30 and started to move into my 40s. Something psychologically shifted in my brain. And I feel that's one of those things that kind of shifts you from being a young adult to being a more mature adult. And it also is something that you tend to notice in people who are compassionate. It's something that you notice in parents that have raised multiple kids or adults that have taken care of other people for a length of time and have managed to find a place of inner peace. One of the biggest things that I've discovered in my life towards the end, age 40, is a lot of stuff doesn't really matter. And you realize more that these core fundamentals of humanity, compassion, empathy, patience, love, perseverance, integrity, honesty, those core human values really are the ones that matter most. Those are the ones that are going to follow you all the way to your grave. And some of the most pleasant, strong, capable, lovable, respectable people out there are the people who are very much aware of the crap that's out there, but knows as a human being what elements of that mess, of that noise, to filter out and which ones to amplify through themselves in order to make the world around them a better place. And that's kind of where I like to house my own self. That's where I like to find myself in my own life. That's the kind of world, the kind of ecosystem I want to create for you on my YouTube channel. Because if you do intend on having an artistic career, you have to get good at it. In order to get good at it, you have to be able to focus on it. You need to be able to invest energy into it. And you can't do that if you're worrying about everything else, can you? You're too preoccupied with all this other bullshit that really doesn't need to be there. Turn on the news for 5 seconds. That is an oubliette of bullshit that's trying to pull you in. It's clickbait trying to remind you that the world sucks and we're all doomed. And anybody, you can tell anybody who has a very shitty outlook and perspective on life is somebody who probably gets involved in the news, whatever your news platform is. Whether it leans left or whether it leans right, don't matter. No matter which one you're a part of, it's going to suck you in and trying to shove you into some team. Team red, team blue, right? Team white, team black. And it's trying to shove you into this little box and get you to fight with everybody else. Why? Because it's lucrative. Because there's a lot of money in conflict, right? Now, with that said, don't think for 2 seconds that what I'm saying right now is in reflection to what's happening right now in Ukraine. Okay, I'm not talking about that whatsoever. I'm just talking about normal everyday stuff. I'm not talking about war and death. That's a completely different situation. And that's a far more grave situation that absolutely does require our contributions, our compassion, our involvement, our energy. But remember that you can and will not ever be of any assistance to anybody suffering if you're caught up in that mess with them. If you are caught up in the politics, caught up in the he said, she said bullshit. It's amazing, since I posted a couple of videos where I had read that letter from that Russian artist, the very, very moving one, or my last art talk where I was talking about how I was feeling about all of our friends in Ukraine who are seriously suffering, watching the president of Ukraine plead to Canada for air support for a no-fly zone. It was hard to watch because he's trying to be diplomatic while he's maybe feeling quite betrayed right now. And or not betrayed, but well, yeah, betrayed. He needs help, and his family, his country is dying right now, and it's really heart-wrenching to watch this happen. I am not at all even walking on that territory of what's happening in Ukraine right now, because it is absolutely heartbreaking what's happening, and I do want all of you to get involved in any capacity that you can. I'm just talking about day-to-day shit. I'm talking about everyday stuff. And when it comes down to it, as an artist, you have to learn when it's necessary to get involved, when it's necessary to worry, and when it's time for you to shut off the world outside you and get focused on your artwork. You have to learn to do that. And if I think about my past, the things that really involved a lot, really consumed a lot of my energy, I think about relationships that weren't conducive to a professional art career or career in general. I think about relationships with family members or with friends that were toxic, that pulled me out of my headspace and forced my consumed energy that didn't need to be consumed, that consumed time that I needed to be able to invest into my career, into my artistic growth. I think about advice that I got from people who might have the best intentions but didn't know when to shut the fuck up and mind their own business and let me do my thing. I think about getting involved in politics, studios, relationships between different businesses that I was trying to mediate that ended up just being bottomless pits of conflict. And I want to walk you through them and kind of give you my take on it and what brought me to where I am today. Because I didn't end up making this art channel. I didn't end up creating these art talks because I was somebody who just lived a cushy life, and I'm some entitled rich kid who's telling you to work harder, like that controversial bullshit that we hear from celebrities telling them that, if you want to succeed, you got to put in the work, from people who literally grew up rich and entitled, right? That's not the boat I want to take. So if I think about relationships, and this is something that I have spoken about in the past, if I think about relationships, I'm not referring to relationships that I thought were necessarily, quote, bad relationships, where the people were bad people and who hurt me. No, quite the opposite. In most cases, I can say that I was in relationships with people that were full of love, full of support. They were gentle souls. They were compassionate, but had zero concept of what it means to be a professional. Not only at art, but professional in general. They were at a phase in their life, usually younger, this is when I was younger, where relationships were all consuming. They were everything. And they took precedent over everything else in life. Like, fuck education, fuck family, everything. It's just relationships. It's just, I need to make babies. Let's go, right? That kind of an attitude. Not that I was having children at that particular point in my life, but so when I would sit down to draw, I'd say, okay, I love you, sweetheart. You're my pride and joy. I love you. The earth, the moon and sun rises and sets on your perfect self. But I'm going to lock myself in this room for a little while, and I'm going to get some drawing done. I'm sure I've told this story in the past because it's such an iconic moment in my life. And in all of her wonderfulness, she said, "Absolutely, sweetheart, I love you too. You go draw till you're blue in the face." And I said, "Thank you." And I slammed the door and I started to sharpen my pencil. And I'm sharpening my pencil. And then, "Are you done?" "Oh no, sweetie, I just started drawing. I'm just sharpening my pencil." "Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, go ahead, have fun, sweetie. I love you. I love you too." Okay. And then I start to sketch in my sketchbook, and 5 minutes later, "How about now? Are you done now?" No, I'm not done yet. I'm just getting. I'm going to be a little while, so just I don't know. I don't want to bother you. I don't want to upset you, but yeah, I got to kind of get into the groove artistically, right? "Oh yeah, of course. Love you too. Okay, we'll talk soon." Okay. 5 minutes later, and this kept going on for about 30 minutes until eventually I said, "You know what? Forget this. It's not going to happen. Forget it." And I put my pencils down and I said, "Today I'm going to write off drawing because she needs attention." Okay, good. And we hung out. And then it was the same fucking thing the next day and the next day and the next day. And to a certain point, it became to the point where it became so possessive that if I wanted to draw, that triggered her to thinking, "Oh, well, he loves his art more than me." And I'm sitting there going, this shit isn't going to work. I can't have an artistic career and date this person at the same time. It's just not going to happen. She's just all consuming. She's too jealous. She's too possessive of my time. She doesn't understand the artist. She doesn't understand that if I'm going to sit down to draw, hey, I could be at this for the next 7-8 hours. Artists tend to need their independence. They need their alone time. That's why a lot of artists, and you might be one of these, are their most active at 1 o'clock in the morning, because that's when the rest of the world goes to sleep and they finally have the place to themselves where they can get lost in their own thoughts. Now, I don't necessarily recommend doing that because I'm a very strong believer in circadian rhythms and proper sleep habits and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that fucking with your sleep schedule is at all healthy for your long-term growth and long-term success. So it's better to develop healthy habits and healthy relationships. But yeah, there's a reason why artists are night owls sometimes. It's because they need that time to think, and they can't be in a situation with a relationship or a family member or a parent that's constantly knocking on the door every 2 seconds trying to demand their time. Now, very important. Yes, I need my time. And when I'm working, I'm in my zone, and if people keep tapping on my shoulder every 2 seconds because they want me to look at some TikTok, I'll tell them to fuck off. I'll gently sing, "I love you, sweetheart. Now, can you please fuck off?" Okay? I'll do it like that instead. I do love my kids, right? But I am a father, right? And I'm also a partner. I have a woman in my life, and she needs my time too. I'm not just art is not my all-consuming everything, and very often that balance can weigh too much in the me time all the time. And that's why I'm always a very big advocate for setting a set time. There's a time to draw, there's a time for productivity, and there's also a time to hang out with your kids and watch Beyblades. There's also a time to sit down with your partner or go for a nice walk in the sun and get some fresh air because you've been sitting in front of your desk for 16 hours straight and you need some time to yourself. There's also time for Elden Ring. Am I right? Right? I hope so, because I don't know if I could live without it. For at least 19 hours a day, just, keeping things in moderation, of course, but I digress. But you need to be able to regiment your time. And the more professional you get, the more you need to manage it. Because if once you reach a certain point where you do start to find this rhythm and this success in your life, and you do start to find a regularity in your career, you start to have to manage more and more things. And that's kind of what brings me to the second part of this, and that is time management. And when it comes to time management, take me for instance, my particular case. Now, I might not be a common case because I kind of wear many hats. I am self-employed, which you might very well want to be one of these days too. But in the age of social media, in the age of content creation, in the age of running an online business where you're doing it all yourself, where you might be doing calls or doing business with clients on Zoom or on Skype or on Discord or something like that, you need to wear a lot of hats. So for me, for instance, for what I'm doing, I have to take into account all of the things that are demanded of me in order to do my job. So, video production. Well, right now I'm recording into a microphone, which you guys thankfully helped me pick, because I did a survey and you guys unanimously picked this one. So thank you for that. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. So in order to do that, I need audio equipment. I need to know how to set up audio equipment. I need to know how to record it properly. I need an SD card for it. I need to be able to create proper balances, know how to work proper cabling. I have HDMI switches that I use if I need to work with different cameras. Then I have to do my lighting setup, and then I have to wire up this entire system. I'm a big stickler for cable management because I can't stand a messy studio, and I need to know how to work cameras, and then I have to film it. Then I need to know how to color grade it, what kind of color settings, how to set white balance, how to monitor all of this stuff, how to sync it all together, how to bring it into a different editing app, how to edit my audio, incorporate different audio tracks into it, how to create audio balance. So now that you're listening to me talk, notice that the music isn't overwhelming it, how to create equalizer tracks to be able to mix in audio, how to bring it in and out, and then how to edit it, and how to bring in special effects, and how to do painting videos. And okay, that's just one little aspect of what I do. That doesn't include teaching an online school full-time, right? Teaching two private sessions a day, managing all the emails and all of the administration stuff that goes on behind the scenes when I'm getting in touch with people, signing people up, all that kind of stuff. Okay? Doing drawings. You're watching a painting video right now. I needed to find time to sit down and paint this, to work on this painting. I also need to be able to get back in touch with people. I need to be able to help out students. Maybe there's something up with my website. Maybe I need to do an update. I'm also updating all the course material that I've started recording back in 2015. And now I'm doing all the updates for all of this kind of stuff. Then I have kids that come home after school. They need to eat. Dishes need to be cleaned. I need to spend a little bit of quality time with my kids when I can. I need to be able to spend some time with my partner when I can. All of these things need to be managed. How do I do that? One of the most common questions I have is how the hell can you how can you do all of this stuff? How do I manage it? I manage it by not biting off more than I can chew. I think that's one of the most important things. You have to set your limits. You have to create boundaries. The more professional you get, if you're trying to please everybody, if you're trying to answer every single 25-page letter that you get by email, and you don't know how to manage that, if you don't know how to manage your school, if you don't keep yourself organized, if you don't try to spread yourself out over every single social media feed out there, if you're trying to be a celebrity on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Apple Podcasts and all that kind of shit, if you're trying to be a celebrity everywhere, you're going to fall flat on your face in 5 years. Good luck. So, how did I do it? Notice that, yeah, I do update myself once in a while on Instagram. Yeah, once in a blue moon, I might go on ArtStation and upload some new pieces of artwork. But I spend about 1% of my time on those platforms. I spend 99% of my time, if I'm doing any kind of content creation, in one place, YouTube. I'm also considering, let me know in the comments below, I was actually talking about this with my girlfriend, uploading my podcasts onto iTunes, onto Apple Podcasts. If that's something that interests you, let me know. Or if you have any better suggestions, more popular ones, let me know below. But that's another consideration. But that, I'm considering it because I have to think of how much more time and energy is this adding on to my workload when I'm already kind of hitting my limit within the realm of health. When I first started my career, one of the biggest mistakes I made is I spread myself. I wanted to be seen everywhere. I wanted to leave a footprint on every single beach on the planet. And what I realized shortly thereafter is that only certain select few actually reaped any kind of benefit from it. Because I was spreading myself out so thin, certain platforms I was just doing a shittier job than on other ones. So it just it did more harm than good. It was presenting me as being somebody who's inconsistent rather than being somebody consistent. So I said at a certain point, fuck it. I'm going to let those ones go. I'll upload whenever I feel like it, but that's not my priority. And I made YouTube my priority because I felt it was the platform that I benefited from most. It was the one where it was audio and visual. I could do live action videos. I could do paint over videos. It was a much more flexible platform for me. So I had already I already had my feet planted in the sand on that beach. So I decided to stick with it. And I'm glad I did. because I've managed to grow slowly over the years and build a platform and build a name for myself and not burn myself out in the process. Now, when it comes to my mentorship, when it comes to answering emails, I deeply give a shit about every single person that reaches out to me. But when I get emails from people, I even have a little disclaimer on my thing saying, please do not send your life story. But that's a bit tricky for me because, listen, I'm sharing my freaking life story with you right now. That's a bit hypocritical, isn't it? I'm opening up my heart to you and sharing my personal thoughts and feelings in an art talk. You want to share that in return. You want to reciprocate. You want to open up with me as well. But within reason, I can, of course, read and respond to every email I get. Within reason. But sometimes I open up an email, and that email is about 600 pages long. You know, it's somebody who just felt emotional and just gushed it in an email and sent it to me on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. when I just woke up. And I open up my emails and I go, Jesus, Murphy, what is this? I want to read that. But I've learned, for my own sanity and to set a precedent with the people who reach out to me, I can't answer that. I can't even read it, let alone answer it. And more often than not, those very long emails are, admittedly, from artists that are under the age of 20. It's usually around the ages 18 to 22 that people say, oh, Adam sounds like a good listener. Why don't I tell him about my family problems? Right? And to that, I very respectably say, I very much appreciate that you trust me with this, but I'm not a psychologist, so I'm sorry. I'm not the person to help you with that endeavor. But good luck. If somebody's asking me artistic questions, if somebody sends me an email and says, hey, Adam, I love your YouTube videos. Here's a link to my portfolio. Would you mind giving me a rundown of all my artwork and let me know what needs to be fixed? No. I have hundreds and hundreds of students who depend on me for that kind of feedback, who hire me for that kind of personalized feedback. I can't just answer I'm not an art hotline, right? That's not, I'm a one individual. I'm doing all of this shit myself. I cannot manage that. Nor do I think it's fair to my students who do sign up for it. So I tell them, I'm sorry, I can't offer personalized feedback unless you sign up for a consultation. And that's how I keep my business running. And that's how I keep my sanity in check, right? Because if I do it for one, I'm not going to be unfair. I'm not going to help one person out and not the next. So I have to set a precedent and say, no, that's a limit for me. I can't cross that line. So if you want to, you can sign up for the mentorship. Some people do. Some people say, oh, no, I was hoping you could give me some free feedback. And I go, no, I'm afraid I can't do that. And we both go on with our lives. Nobody's been disrespected. I didn't tell the person to go jump off a cliff in anger. No, they're not. I don't think they deserve anger or hate for that, but they do need to understand that I'm an individual who can't just answer those kinds of questions on a whim. So I don't. And I set that limit. Now I'm saying this out loud because if you go back 25 years, I didn't set that limit. So when I had friends and family members that said, I thought you cared about me. I need your help, blah, 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 blah. Well, if you need help for the seventh time in the seventh day in a row, and I've offered you all the time and energy and advice that I can give you, and you're still fucking whining and complaining about it, then you're on your own, buddy. It's time for you to pick up the slack yourself and start taking charge of your own life. And if your life falls apart, that's your responsibility, not mine, right? So in that particular case, I'm there to help you when I can, when I have the time, when I have the energy, when I'm not busy, when I don't have more important priorities to deal with. And after that, you need to be able to pick it up on your own. And I'm setting a precedent of saying I'm there to help you as long as you're there to help yourself. And if you're not there to help yourself, then you're just going to keep consuming my time and energy until there's nothing left of me. And when your life falls apart because you burned me out, you're going to blame me for it. And I'm saying this out of experience. Because people who tell you that I can't live my life without you and my life is going to fall apart without you are the first ones to blame you when you run out of steam and can't help them anymore. Ain't that a fact? And this, more often than not, is people who are closest to us. Family members who you dearly love and want the best for and don't want to abandon. It's that fear of abandoning somebody in need. And people can play on that sense of abandonment, or they just are so lost in and of themselves, they're desperately reaching out to other people. And sometimes the best advice you can do, sometimes the best thing you can do, not only from a friend's perspective, but from a parent's perspective, is let them figure it out on their own. And you realize that people are a lot more independent than you think. And if a person is holding you accountable for their life, it's a big no. That means that relationship line has crossed. It's not at all a healthy relationship. That's something you need to take your distance from. You need to be able to set your boundary and say, no more. Now take that same thing and put it into the context of a business exchange. Because a business exchange is just another dynamic of relationships. And I remember at one particular point, when I kind of taken a break from doing art and to explore other business ventures, because I didn't think I was going to make it as an artist, because I was a complete suck-ass artist who's never going to make a name for himself. And I was putting together this swing dance venue where I was trying to get a bunch of different swing and jive dance schools in Montreal to collaborate and teach lessons at my venue, which was called the West Side Lounge. That was the name of it. And there were three schools. There was one other driving school. It's called Sophia Wolf's Driving School. Then there was the Swinging Air Force, or the SAF. If you're into the swing scene, you might know them because they're pretty known worldwide. And then Cat's Corner. And these were the two main swing dance schools in Montreal. And then I had a jive dance school, and then there was Sophia Wolf's Jive Dance School, which is kind of rockabilly versus more new age kind of jive dance music and blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to get them all together into the same community so we could all teach together. And up until this point, jivers had wanted nothing to do with swing dancers, and swing dancers wanted nothing to do with jive dancers. Not only that, there was a lot of infighting between different jive schools, different dance schools in the swing and jive dance communities, within the swing dance communities. Swinging Air Force and Cat's Corner wanted nothing to do with each other. Okay? And I'm sitting here in the middle of all this thinking, I need to mediate this mess, because I want them all to teach at my school. You know, just get the broomsticks out of your ass and start getting along. And sure enough, I get this. At one point, I remember it's very funny being on a conference call with the Swinging Air Force, the head of the Swinging Air Force on one end of the phone, and then the head of Cat's Corner on the other, going, I don't want to talk to him. He's an idiot. And then I go, okay, click, and I go on the other line. No, I'm not going to talk to him. He's smelly. I'm like, okay, fuck, you know. And I mediated. I went back and forth and flip-flop back and forth between these two calls until eventually I helped them to reach a common ground. And I ended up closing the gap, so now it was a three-way call. You remember back during high-tech times, back in the day when you could actually have a three-way conference call? Wow. This super high-tech stuff. And they ended up begrudgingly getting along, and they ended up teaching at my venue. It's still a day of great pride of mine when I could get two rival schools that hadn't spoken to each other in like a decade to finally get along. And they taught at my school for a while. For a while, until something happened. You know, somebody decided to play a prank on somebody else and tied their shoelaces together. Speaking hypothetically, of course, or somebody said some snide remark about the other person's dance technique. And it set off a little escalating trigger. Some little seed of animosity started to grow between them. And then before you knew it, they were me. And what did they do? Well, since it was my venue, and since I was the one who kind of mediated it the first time, they came back to me and said, Adam, I don't like him anymore. Can you fix our relationship again? And I was like, no, fuck you both. I said, I love you both equally. It's like a kid, right? I love you both equally, but so therefore you can both fuck off. I'm not going to pick sides, right? And the politics started to get into it. The politics of business got back into the mix. And it started to become ultimatums and conditions and limitations, to the point where the business ceased to be able to manage itself if I was trying to keep everybody happy. Every single time I played too much swing dance music, the jive dancers sat down and they were bored. And every time I played too much jive music, the swing dancers sat down and they were bored. And they were complaining about the type of DJ and the kind of lighting that they had. And all of a sudden, everybody had their own unique needs, their own unique desires. And I found myself in a position, which I found myself in business many times, where I was trying to make everybody happy. And that's a mistake. You can't make everybody happy. Nobody can make everybody happy. Apple computers very possibly just discontinued the 27-inch iMac. And half of the world is in an uproar about it. But you know what? Apple can't make any fucking progress if they're still trying to live off of their old successes. So they brought out the Mac Studio with a separate display. This is just unlocked potential. But in order to do that, boy, did they piss a lot of fucking people off. They got rid of the headphone jack. The whole world was in an uproar. Oh my God, how could they do it? Now everybody's doing it. AirPods are the best-selling headphone on earth. Surprise, surprise. They had to break some hearts so that they could maintain their own integrity. And when it came to these dance schools, at a point I sat down and I said, if you don't want to get along, you can both leave. And what do? They came back the next day with their tails between their legs and said, fine. You cannot stretch yourself out in 65 different directions. It's physically and emotionally impossible to do, and you end up being the one who fails. When it comes to business, when it comes to managing all of these different things, you have to set your own precedent and allow the world to adapt to it within reason. And within reason meaning, I don't mean being a tyrant about it and telling everybody in the world to go fuck themselves. And it's only going to be, no, that's selfishness. But I'm saying within a reasonable confine, within reasonable times, within reasonable expectations, you set a precedent and you have to stick to it. So it's the reason why Apple never, ever, 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 ever puts things on sale. Maybe the price might drop slightly over the years, but they never put their things on sale. They never devalue their product. One could say that was selfish. One could say that was bad business practice. Is it? Well, I know I can resell a 6-year-old MacBook or an iPad and get a very big chunk of that money back years after the fact. I have a 2-year-old fucking PC that nobody wants, because I want the graphic card and I only want the processor. And can you take the fans out? I don't really care for that case. The wiring, No. Take it as it fucking is. Nobody wants it because Microsoft don't value themselves. They don't have integrity as a company. They're a free-for-all trying to make everybody happy type of company. Now, they've managed to find their niche. They have a huge clientele. That's good for them. But nobody's particularly loyal to Microsoft, are they? Well, because Microsoft isn't loyal to anybody. They're a free-for-all company and they can't manage their own business. They cannot manage their own business. I'm planning a whole video around that, around my experiences between Microsoft and Apple. I have a lot to unload about those two different companies. And yeah, I know I'm talking about two of the biggest companies in the world. They're big tech companies, but I don't regard them as that. I regard these as the relationships that they have with their customers. Whether it's on a huge scale or on a one-to-one scale, all of these things are just relationships. And when it comes to the way you manage yourself, the more successful you get, the more you have to realize that it really comes down to managing yourself, not managing everybody else. You have to hold your own. You have to set your own tempo. You have to set your own pace. You have to set your own reasonable precedent, and you have to adhere to it like it's the rule of the land, like it's the word of God, and you don't want to betray it. You have to respect your own integrity, because if you don't, nobody else will. If you don't respect your own time and space, you'll just get walked all over, and then what are you going to do? Blame everybody else for it? No, it's your fault. You needed to put your foot down. You respected your space, now it's their responsibility to do it. But if they don't, well, if it's your kids, parent with more assertiveness. No, I don't mean aggressiveness, but I mean assertiveness. Look at them in the eyes and say, I said in an hour, we'll talk in an hour. If you have a partner in your life, who's your life partner, and you love them more than life itself, and the sun rises and sets on their perfect bosom, then say, I love you. I'll be back with you in an hour. Okay? But I need my work. No, but you said you love, I do love you, but if you want me to continue loving me, then fuck off. I'm busy. But I love you. So please, kindly fuck off. And if you're with a family member that's pushing you and pushing you too hard and they don't respect your space and they keep getting up in your grill, hang up the fucking phone. Hang up the phone. Because mommy needs to talk to you and she thinks you're betraying her. Hang up the goddamn phone. And if she doesn't like that, you can block her number until you're ready to get the phone call again. Because you have to establish the fact that your space matters to you. And if you're with people that don't respect your space, then they're toxic. They're toxic. Because if you have reasonable demands and if you show them if you are there for people when you can and when you're ready, you are not asking too much for them to respect your space in return. It's a reciprocal relationship. It goes two ways. And you have to be very steadfast about it. You have to be very stoic about your stance, about your space. And by doing so, by setting that precedent, by establishing yourself and being a leader of your own domain, a leader of your own space, and people respecting that space. It took me a long time to learn how to do that without hurting people, without neglecting my responsibilities. Once you do that, you can start occupying your own space and start taking ownership of your own life. And you can start to thrive. And if and when anything falls flat, if things fall apart despite you successfully managing all those other elements in your life, then you've only got one person left to blame. Yourself. So that means you need to get your own shit together. All right? All right. So with that said, I love you all with all my heart, of course, and happy painting. Take care.